or something that God's been teaching you, or something that you learned in the Bible. We're letting people sign up to share on Sunday mornings this year. And if you're like high school student, middle school student, whatever, and you're like, I have something that I really want to share, and I think I could do a good job sharing it, let me know, and we'll get you signed up for a week, because we'd love to have you talk 1 week. So this week it's Keontae. Next Wednesday, Azarian is speaking right here at the Escape on Wednesday night. So bring your friends that don't want to listen to me talk, and they can listen to Azarian talk and still get Jesus. So that'll be great. At the end of the evening, during small groups, all of our middle schoolers, you're going to get some papers sent home for a thing called the Believe Conference. It's a middle school only road trip to Cincinnati. It's going to be February 15th and 16th. So it's an overnight trip. We're going to stay at a nice hotel, eat really good food. The cost of the trip is $75. All of the info that you need is on the paper that's going to be sent home. So there are 2 permission slips with it that have to be filled out. It tells you when the money has to be turned in. This is a middle school only trip. There's a limited number of space available for you to go. So the sooner you get that stuff filled out and turned in, the more likely you are to be allowed to go. So that is 15th and 16th of February, and it's just for middle school students. This stuff goes home tonight. We had a family night here on Sunday night. Some of your parents came, some of them didn't. If your parents did not come to family night, and if they didn't talk about it, they probably didn't come. There's a paper back in the back that says family night for your parents. So stop by the help desk before you leave tonight and grab one of those. That way, if you want to go on trips with the Escape this year, you'll be able to. Okay, I have one more announcement, and this is my favorite announcement of the night. So, since the last time we hung out here at the Escape, not one, but 2 couples got engaged.
Really?
First of all, Brian and Jocelyn. So he put a ring on it. Then Wes and Maddie got engaged. And he's like, yeah, I forgot to put a ring on it. You got to ask Wes the engagement story, because it's really great. Anyway, I am so excited for them, and I hope you are too. And man, I've been checking out. Wes is all like, I want to wear just a vest, no shirt underneath as my wedding outfit. So I think I'm going to do the same thing. So I've been looking at like leopard print vests online. I'm going to look so good for that wedding. I mean, you'd stick out. Anyway, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to sing. God, thanks so much for giving us a chance to hang out here tonight, to talk about Jesus, to sing to Jesus. I pray as we spend time talking about your Brian and Jocelyn and Wes and Maddie, and for the Escape, and thankful for what you're going to do here tonight. Amen. All right, let's stand up and sing. Oh, can you turn the blue mic on? Because I forgot to do that. It's probably just muted.
Got it.
Thanks.
It was my
cramp in my side, and like I feel like I'm gonna keel over dead or something. It's not that bad, really. I can just take a drop. Okay, so has anybody ever made a resolution? Anybody? Yeah. Okay. So just real quick, a couple of you. What is a resolution that you've made at some point in your life?
I have no idea. To not make one.
Oh, nice.
Because I never failed.
Go for it.
Not play video games?
Oh, yeah?
That didn't work.
Yeah, I believe that. What you got, Steven?
Focus on your grades.
Yeah. What you got, BB?
Not stay up and go somewhere.
Yeah.
To gain weight.
To gain weight. Yeah, that's not my resolution.
To stop yelling as much, but it's not working.
Oh. What you got, Billy?
To lose weight? No.
Maybe you and Alize can just swap.
I'm okay.
I don't want Billy's sleep.
I'll put it off for you.
Yeah, to read more. That was one of my resolutions last year. I did really well with that for like 6 months, and then I had a baby. You don't feel good when you have a baby. You're all like, One time I resolved not to have a baby.
Didn't work.
Yeah. She's cute. I'll keep her.
Can I have her?
So, how many...
Put up both of those hands.
Was it just like a little fail, or was it an epic fail?
I started one day and went beyond epic.
Yeah. I used to every single year, I'm not sure why I did this to myself, but every single year I would be like, okay, I'm going to eat everything I want over Christmas break, and on January 1st, for the whole month of January, I'm not going to eat junk food. And I did that for like 3 or 4 years in a row. Exactly. Dad bod in the making. Yeah, most of us have made and broken resolutions. The idea behind a resolution is like, I am going to do this. I'm going to commit to do this or not do this. It's like, it's not just like a flippant, well, maybe. When you make a resolution, you're like, this is what's going to happen. This is serious. This is what it's all about. But then so quickly we break those resolutions. But I want to challenge you tonight to make a few resolutions starting tonight for the rest of 2019. I know I'm a little late jumping on the resolution bus because we're like several days into the year, but we haven't hung out, so I didn't have a chance to talk to you about this. But I'm going to give you 4 things that I want you to resolve to do this year. And if you'll do these 4 things, I promise you that your life is going to be better at the end of 2019. And these aren't going to be like mind-blowing, earth-shattering, do these 4 things and your whole life is going to be perfect. But if you make these 4 resolutions for 2019, I promise that your life will be better, that your service to Jesus will be more effective, and that you're going to be a happier person. So the first resolution that I want to challenge you to make for 2019, this is really simple. Be kind. Be kind. This isn't super spiritual. This is just like be a good human, common sense stuff. Being kind to somebody is being nice to them, is being considerate of them, is not thinking, saying, or doing anything to them that will hurt them or your relationship with them because you did something mean or inappropriate. To be kind to someone is just something that you owe that person because they are a human and you are a human and you have to share this earth. And when I say I want you to be kind to people, I don't just mean like put on a good front when they're right there with you. And that is important. Like when you're hanging out with people, when you're at school with people, when you're walking through the hallway with people, sitting at the lunchroom table with people, be nice to them. Be kind to them. Do that. But I want you to take that a step further. When people aren't around, be kind to them. That means if somebody really drives you crazy or you really don't like someone and you aren't even sure why you really don't like them, if you have a problem with someone, even if they're not around, be nice to them, which means you aren't talking about them behind their back, which means that you aren't sending text messages or Snapchats or mean stuff about them that you're hoping that they don't see, because if they did, it would cause problems and start drama. Being kind is not just when you're face to face, it's when you're away from each other. Kindness needs to carry through even when you're not together. When you're online, be kind to people. And I'm going to get real personal here for a second. Some of y'all in this room are just mean on the internet. I mean, it's not even like, well, that wasn't very nice. It's like you're flat out mean. The things that you say to people online, the things that you post about people on social media, on Facebook, it's just not nice. It's not kind. It's irresponsible. It's rude. It's inconsiderate. It's just not okay. You know, making Facebook posts calling people like F and B's, that's not okay. Like, that's not even okay if you're not a follower of Jesus. But if you claim to know and follow Jesus, and you're using language like that to refer to other people online, on social media, you're not living like Jesus, and you're certainly not being kind. Be kind to people, to their face, behind their back, online. Don't try to start drama. And even if the other person tried to start drama with you, don't let it go any further than that. Be kind to, sometimes the kindest thing that you can do for a person who's trying to start drama with you is just ignore them. That's a whole lot more kind than dishing it back out and calling them another name. Then taking it a step further, and they say something mean about you, so you get all like defensive and start threatening to fight them, and calling them out, and making fun of their family, and making fun of the way that they look, and making fun of their clothes, and you're like, well, I don't do that, but some people in this room do, and I'm their friends on Facebook and on Instagram, and I see it, and it really bothers me because it's people who claim to know and love Jesus, and that's not the way followers of Jesus live. Resolve to be kind in texting and calling. When you're sending somebody a message, when you're making a phone call, if you wouldn't want it said to you, don't say it to them. It's that simple. If you don't want somebody saying something like that to you, don't say it to them. Even if they said it to you first, don't say it to them. Resolve to be kind. I love this verse, Ephesians 4:32. Somebody read this for me. Who's got it? Yeah, go for it.
Be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you.
That is, and then he gives reasons. So he says, be kind, be tender-hearted, which means like God through Christ forgave you. What exactly does that mean? It means that even though you sinned, you thought, said, and did things to dishonor your Creator, God, you broke your relationship with God. Even though you did that, you broke the heart of your Creator. You spit in the face of your Creator, the everlasting, all-powerful God of the universe. And that sin was so serious that He literally sent His Son to die on the cross to pay the price of your sin, to bring you forgiveness. That's what God did for you. And basically this verse is saying the very least that you can do for God is be kind to other people and forgive them. We don't have nearly as much to forgive another person as God forgave us, but He did it anyway. Resolve to be kind, whether they deserve it or not, whether you want to be kind or not, whether they're kind back to you or not. Be kind. Use kind words. Use kind body language. Send kind messages. Some of you, maybe in order to keep this resolution, maybe you just need to lose the cell phone, lose the social with a group of friends that's always mean and nasty to people who aren't part of your group of friends. How are you going to wind up acting? You're going to wind up acting mean and nasty to people who aren't in your group of friends. I lead a leadership club over at Hamilton on Fridays. Logan's in my club. Hey Logan, you're the best. And the other day, we always do this thing at the beginning called Roses and Thorns. And so we have them tell one good thing, one bad thing. Well, I mean, let's be real. There are a couple kind of weird kids in the group. But this one girl, I mean, she's really nice. She's just kind of weird. And she started talking the other day, and I heard a couple girls on the other side of the room go, she's just so weird. And it wasn't like, it wasn't joking, or they were just being mean. And it's like, they probably shouldn't be hanging out with each other if that's the way they're going to talk when they're hanging out together. Don't be in a friend group like that if it causes you to break the resolution to be kind. Find some friends who are kind to other people, and that's going to rub off on you and make you a kinder, more compassionate, tender-hearted, forgiving person. Next one. I want you to resolve to be pure. And this has a couple different layers to it. So we're going to unpack a kind of simple, kind of general one first, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. What does it mean to be pure? And I'm looking for a general definition, nothing super specific. If something is pure, what is it? Yeah.
It means to not do anything bad, just stay.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Well, being pure is not being corrupted, thinking bad thoughts and stuff like that.
Wow, that was a super good definition.
I'm thinking of some kind of clean and untouched thing.
All of that put together is absolutely perfect. It's a really basic definition, free of any contamination. So you put all that stuff together, and that's the exact definition you just gave. In our context, as followers of Jesus, being challenged to resolve to be pure, it would be free of sin. Okay, so free of contamination applied to our context is free of sin, free of things that dishonor God. What type of things? I just want you to think big things right now. Things that maybe you hear about on the news, or things that maybe you hear about in our community. What kind of, or even at school, what kind of things might contaminate a person?
Murder.
Or murder. That, you went real big, real fast. Wow. Drugs, yeah.
Bad people, like people that already aren't here.
Yeah.
The wall.
Oh man. Okay, all the way in the back. Ryan. Yeah, alcohol, good. Phoebe. Huh? Yeah, good. All the way in the back.
Bad stuff on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Yeah, you could be a youth pastor. Okay, hang on just a second, because I'm going to need some more thoughts in a minute. You guys hit on all of the ones that I had us here just thinking big. Things like drugs and alcohol and smoking and vaping and dirty stuff on the internet. All of that stuff is like obviously contaminating to a person, right? Like you think about that stuff and it's like, yeah, that is genuinely bad stuff. Like, and it's not just bad because we say it's bad because science says it's bad. Like drugs, just not good for you. It's crazy to me. Like I'll see people walking around out in the community, and they'll look like they're 60, 70 years old, and they're my age because of what drugs has done to them. And do we need any more proof that it's bad for you? I mean, they're doing crazy stuff, getting arrested because they lose control of their mind and body. They crave this stuff so much that they're willing to do anything for anyone in order to get what they want, but they shouldn't have. Like, it's just not good. Alcohol is kind of the same way. You might fight and be like, there's nothing wrong with a beer every now and then. Well, for you, there really is, because it's illegal. When you get a little bit older, you can have that debate with me if you want. You're still probably going to lose, because it's really just not a good idea to drink. But here's the thing. Most people can't drink responsibly. Most of you, if your parents drink, they probably don't drink real responsibly, if we're honest. Alcohol has the potential to make you act completely out of your mind. For some people, it makes them like super happy and super gullible. Some people, it makes them super emotional and sad and also gullible. Some people, it makes them really angry and gullible. Hey, I bet you won't go bust out that windshield. What do you mean? I'll bust out that windshield with my bare hands. Wake up the next morning. How did this happen? I have a headache in my hand. Like, alcohol is just not a good idea. And science will tell you the same thing. Overconsumption of alcohol will wreck your organs. It will mess up your brain. It's not good for you. It'll contaminate you. Smoking. I don't even know how smoking is still legal. Like, it is so bad for you that it should be illegal. Like, there's nothing redeeming about secondhand smoke, about smoking a cigarette. There's nothing. Maybe your parents are like, every time I try to quit smoking, I get fat. Okay, so maybe smoking a cigarette keeps you a little skinnier. There are other ways to get skinny without literally killing yourself. So those are kind of the big things that we think about when we think about contaminating ourselves, about being unpure, about hurting ourselves, our bodies. It's safe to assume that all of us, given those facts, would probably agree those things will contaminate you. They will, and that's not just my opinion. Stay away from that stuff. And I'm going to get on a little bit of a soapbox here for a second. Juuling and vaping are just as bad for you as smoking. And your friends at school will tell you that those things are harmless, that they are not as bad for you, but they are every bit as bad for you. In fact, in a lot of cases, they're worse. They'll give you like fluid in your lungs, and that has the potential to kill you even more quickly than secondhand smoke. So just stay away from it. Don't let that stuff contaminate you. So how do we stay away from stuff like that? And not just stuff like that, even simpler things. I'm thinking like websites that we shouldn't be looking at, music that we shouldn't be listening to. I'm thinking like YouTube videos that probably aren't the best for us to watch. Conversations that we probably shouldn't be having, books that we probably shouldn't be reading. It's like we don't always think about those things contaminating us because they're not like scientifically proven to destroy you. They're not scientifically proven to wreck your body. They're not illegal for you to do. You can listen to whatever music you want, watch whatever TV shows you want, whatever YouTube videos you want, read whatever books you want, have whatever conversations you want. And sometimes it doesn't cross our mind that these things might really contaminate us, might really make us impure, because quite frankly, nobody's really telling you that you can't do it. Nobody's really saying this is really bad for you, this is not legal. Like, nobody's saying that in a lot of cases. But there are plenty of things like that seem far less harmful, that have the potential to really mess you up. And there's nothing inherently impure or contaminating about any of those things, right? Like, music isn't necessarily bad. TV shows are not necessarily bad. Books, music, conversations, you name it. It's not necessarily bad, but you can find some really, really dirty, inappropriate content in every single one of those categories. And they can really alter the way that you think and feel about life, and about relationships, and about authority, and about sexuality. If you listen to and watch things that encourage thinking and behavior that dishonors God, before long, you're going to find yourself thinking and behaving in ways that dishonor God. If you're constantly filling your head with this stuff that doesn't point to Jesus, eventually your life is going to stop pointing to Jesus. You'll find yourself feeling dirty and guilty and impure. You'll find yourself feeling contaminated. So commit to watching, to listening to reading, to talking about things that honor God. Things that will lead to purity, not contamination. In the book of Philippians in the Bible, Paul encourages his readers to do the same thing that I just encouraged you to do. Someone read this for me. Philippians 4, verse 8. Riv, go for it.
Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things.
Good. So, focus your mind on pure things. Think about them, on the right things, the noble things, the true things, the lovely things, the admirable things, the pure things. If those are the things that you're thinking about the right things. I want to take this purity thing a step further, though. Another definition of the word pure found in the dictionary is wholesome and untainted by immorality, especially that of a sexual nature. So I'm going to have a super blunt conversation with y'all right now. So you think you can handle it? Because we're just going to get real. Sexual purity is so incredibly important, so incredibly valuable. At your age, sexual purity is committing to abstinence, okay? Refusing to have sex or anything close to sex before you're married. That's what sexual purity looks like for an unmarried middle school, high school student, is steering clear of anything sexual in nature. The writer of the book of Hebrews in the Bible tells us that marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure. For God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. So, if we're going to boil this verse down to one phrase, and I hope this gets stuck in your head and drives you nuts forever, if we were to boil this verse down to one phrase, it's this: no wed, no bed. Okay? No wed, no bed. In other words, if you're not married, don't have sex. Period. Like, there's no way around that at all in the Bible. None. There are no loopholes. There are no little clauses like, well, if you really love them, you can do it. Or if you want to see what living together is going to be like before you get married, go ahead and move in together and go ahead and have sex while you're at it, because eventually you're going to... None of that's in the Bible, okay? And culture says, well, it just makes sense to live together before we get married. No, it doesn't, okay? It doesn't make sense. That will rob you of the joy of getting to know the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with in the way that God intended you to get to know them. And this idea, no wed, no bed, say that with me, no wed, no bed. It's going to be awesome when you go home, and that's what you're going to tell your parents you learned tonight. No wed, no bed. There's actually this really hilarious music video called No Wed, No Bed. So I almost showed it tonight, and then I forgot all about it. But it is so stinking funny. You need to go home and look it up. It's like late 90s Christian hip-hop, which never should have been a thing because they were all terrible. But go look it up. No Wed. In fact, I'll even post it on the Facebook page later. So... Anyway, there's not a single student in this room who can claim sexual purity if you're currently sexually active. Let me say that again. There's not a single person, a single student in this room who can claim sexual purity if you're currently sexually active. If you're sleeping with your boyfriend or girlfriend, you're not living a life of sexual purity. You're not honoring God with your body or with your relationship, period. You're not married. You shouldn't be having sex. So what if you are? 2 words. Stop it. Okay? It's that simple. If you're not married and you've had sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend, stop it. Just because you've already done it does not mean that it's okay to keep doing it. You're like, I've already blown it with this person. What's the point of stopping now? There's a huge point. Just stop. Like, the Bible says no, so even if you've done it before, stop it. If you go out and kill one person, you can't be like, well, I've already killed one, I might as well keep going. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Or, you walk up to somebody at school and punch them in the face.
Yes.
You can't be like, well, I've already punched one person in the face, I might as well punch more people in the face. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any more sense to say, well, I've already had sex with that person, so there's no point in stopping now. Listen, if you are not living in sexual purity now, if you are sleeping with somebody that you're not married to, if you're pushing the lines physically with somebody you're not married to, stop it. You got to understand, like, even if you do stop it, you can't get your virginity back. It doesn't work that way. But you can live a life of sexual purity from now until the time that you get married. So just because you've messed up to this point does not mean that you have to keep messing up from the point that you're at now until the time that you find the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So if you compromised sexually, just stop it. Stop dating people who insist on having sex. Stop putting yourselves in situations that lead to sex. Stop pushing the "this isn't really sex" boundary. Just stop it. Resolve to be pure in 2019. And maybe you're like, it's easier said than done. Okay, yeah, you're probably right. If you need help, if you need somebody to keep you accountable, I promise you that if you talk to your small group leader, that they're not going to run around and talk to anybody else about it. We are here to help you. We're here to help you through life. We're here to help you make better decisions. here to help you be the best version of you, the best follower of Jesus that you can possibly be. So resolve to be pure in 2019. Whether it's the little things, like the books that you're reading, the music that you're listening to, the websites that you're looking to, whether it's the big things like sexual purity, resolve to stay pure. Next, resolve to be in church. You're like, well, I'm here now, aren't I? Yeah, and I'm really glad that you are. But at some point this year, life is going to get really busy. At some point, being here isn't going to be convenient anymore. At some point, other stuff is going to fight for your time and attention. And that's when being here is going to take a resolution. For some of you, it's going to be sports. The next sports season is going to roll around, and you're just going to disappear. And for some of you, it's going to be a job. Maybe you get your first full-time job, or maybe your boss starts being uncooperative with your schedule when you say, yeah, I need this time off to be in church. Maybe it's a choir, or maybe it's a friends group that doesn't value church as much as you do and always wants to hang out when you know you should probably be in church, or maybe it's the school band or something like that. At some point in 2019, there's a really good chance that something is going to come along and try to break your resolve to be in church. Don't let that happen, okay? I say this all the time, and I'm never going to stop saying this. If you're on a sports team, you tell your coach, I can't be at practice on church night. I can't be there. If there's a game, I get that. You know, you're part of the team. Maybe you have to go. But if it's a practice, and practice is scheduled to end at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, you tell your coach, I have to be at church by 6:30 and I will be leaving. And quite frankly, if you're the best player on the team, your coach is not going to sit you on the bench for missing the last 30 minutes of practice on a Wednesday night. And if you're the worst player on the team, being there for that 30 minutes of practice is not going to get you any play time. You're going to sit the bench anyway because you're not any good. I mean, it's that simple. And maybe your coach is going to be so bold as to say, well, if you miss the last part of practice, you're going to have to sit the bench. What's more important? Throwing a ball around the court or learning how to serve the God of the universe? You know? What's more important, investing in a game or investing in your relationship with the Savior who paid the ultimate price to pay the price of your sin? Now, I'm not saying that sports are bad. In fact, I think organized sports are a really good thing. It teaches you to work together. It teaches you coordination. It keeps you from getting fat. There are a lot of benefits to playing sports. Eventually, some of you might go on to get scholarships to go to college because you've been a good athlete and a good team player. I'm not saying pull the plug on sports. I'm just saying put them where they belong in your life. And sports ahead of Jesus, that's not the right order ever. Ever. Maybe with your job, you know, you're like, well, I need the hours, I need the money, and it's really tempting to pick up that extra shift on a Wednesday night. I promise you that you will prosper more in life, that you will find more contentment and more joy, that you will find more of your needs being met, and that you'll have enough to bless others with if you give Jesus the priority that he deserves. Now, that's not saying that every now and then you don't have to work. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying you need to resolve that Jesus is going to come ahead of this. And that goes for any of these areas. You know, if you have friends at school who don't know and love Jesus, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to come over Wednesday night after school, and I'm going to stay the night at your house. And you're like, I have church that night. And they're like, yeah, I don't really want to go to church. You just be like, look, you're not coming over to my house unless you go to church with me. I mean, it's that simple, you know? Like, you wear the pants in that relationship. Just resolve to be. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25. Who wants to read this for me? It's Hannah, go for it.
And let us not be neglected our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near.
Yeah, good stuff. So here's the idea. Let's say you resolve to be here and you have to miss a week for a family thing, for a game, for a school function. Have you blown it? Like, have you broken your resolution? Are you guilty of neglecting the church? No, like that's not what I'm saying. That would be considered legalism, to say if you aren't in church every time the doors are open, you're failing as a Christian. Legalism is a fancy word for Christians being jerks. That's basically what it is. What I am saying, make church a priority. Let your coach, your boss, your director, your friends know that you're already committed to your church and you're not willing to break that commitment. And if they want you, if they need you badly enough, they'll understand and they'll work around that. A resolution to be in the church will help you keep your resolution to be kind and your resolution to stay pure. It will also help you keep the next resolution that I'd like you to consider making. But before we go there, I want to take a quick time out, and I just thought of this, so here it is. At some point in your life, you may get a job or a career or be involved in a sport that makes it's literally impossible for you to get out of it and come to church on a Wednesday night. There's church other times. Like Wednesday night isn't it. I know that there are churches, most churches meet on Sunday morning. I know of churches in the area that meet on Sunday afternoons, that meet on Sunday evenings, gatherings that meet on Tuesday evenings and Friday evenings. Pretty much you name it, I can point you to a church that you could still be part of, even if your schedule makes it impossible for you to be at church on a Wednesday night or on a Sunday morning. There's really not an excuse. There's no excuse for neglecting the church. Okay, so stay connected to the church. It'll help you be kind. It'll help you stay pure. And it'll help you keep this resolution. Resolve to be sharing the gospel. If you've hung around the Escape for very long, you've heard the word gospel a lot, right? It's because the message of the gospel is central to every single thing that we do here at the Escape every day of every week. Handing out free stuff at PHS is for the sake of the gospel. DJing school dances is for the sake of the gospel. Hanging out at middle schools is for the sake of the gospel. Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights at the Escape are for the sake of the gospel. It's all for the gospel. Over the past year or so, one of the things that I was challenged to do by one of my mentors was define the things that we value most here at the Escape and put them in papers so we don't forget what we value most and get off track and stop focusing in on our values. So, in other words, the things that are most important to us, I started brainstorming and I came up with 8 core values. And for the most part, these values can be shuffled around into just about any order that you want. But there's one that is firmly planted at the top of the list. And here's how that's worded. The number one value, the number one priority here at the Escape is gospel confidence. Gospel confidence. And here's what that means. We want every student at the Escape to confidently believe the gospel for themselves and to be able to confidently share it with others. I'm going to say that again. We want every student at the Escape to confidently believe the gospel for themselves and to be able to confidently share it with others. So that's the reason we talk through the gospel every single Wednesday night here at the Escape. I know on occasion students come up to me and they're like, "Man, you go over the gospel so much. Like, it's not that I don't know that it's important. It's just that we've heard it so many times. Like, do you really need to keep saying it? Can't we go like deeper than that?" Yeah, we go deeper than that every week, but we always come back to the gospel because it's just the most important thing here at the Escape. Like, if you bring a friend for the first time who's never met Jesus, who doesn't have a personal relationship with Jesus, if I don't share the gospel, they aren't going to hear what they need to know and understand in order to start that relationship with Jesus. If you've been coming for a while and you claim to know and love Jesus because you've accepted the gospel, but you're not hearing the gospel over and over and over, there's a pretty good chance that you're not going to get comfortable enough with it to freestyle it and share it with your friends in a way that makes sense to them. I know that it gets repetitive. I've been sharing this gospel acrostic for like 6 or 7 years now on a consistent basis. Sometimes I'm like, man, do I really need to work this into the lesson? And I do, because everything that we do here is about the gospel. Everything that we do here is to point people to Jesus and to train you to do the same thing. So you know what we're going to do right now? We're going to talk through the gospel. So, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read the slide first, and then you are going to repeat after me. Okay, here we go. God created us. God created. I'm going to light them on fire. And we are live streaming this, so I'm not really going to light her on fire. Okay, here we go. God created us to be with Him. God created us to be with Him. Our sins separate us from God. Our sins separate us from God. Sins cannot be removed by good deeds. Sins cannot be removed by good deeds. Paying the price for sin, Jesus died and rose again. Paying the price for sin, Jesus died and rose again. Everyone who trusts in Him alone has eternal life. Everyone who trusts in Him alone has eternal life. Life with Jesus starts now and lasts forever. Life with Jesus starts now and lasts forever. Okay, let's run through that one more time. This time, just say it with me like you tried so desperately to do that time. Here we go. G. God created us to be with Him. O. Our sins separate us from God. S. Sins cannot be removed by good deeds. P. Paying the price for sin, Jesus died and rose again. E. Everyone who trusts in Him alone has eternal life. L. Life with Jesus starts now. So, the reason that we focus so heavily on the gospel is not just because we want it to sound like we've brainwashed all of you, which is kind of cool, you know? Like, I mean, y'all sound like a bunch of robots. It's pretty solid. It's not because I'm trying to fill time in my lesson every week, because quite frankly, most of you tell me I should talk for less time. The reason that we focus on this every single week is because you have been commanded by Jesus to actively share this message. Like, one of the final things that Jesus said before He left this earth, went back to heaven to be with His Father God, one of the last things He said, Mark 16:15 records it for us. He said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation." Go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. In order to preach the gospel, in other words, in order to share the gospel, you have to know the gospel. You have to understand the gospel. If you don't know and understand the gospel, you can't share it. And if you aren't sharing it, you can't keep this resolution to be sharing the gospel. Man, the gospel is the most important story ever told that's hardly ever told. And I want to challenge you to change that in 2019. Share the gospel with your friends. Share the gospel with your classmates. Share the gospel with your unsaved family members. Share the gospel with your neighbors. Share the gospel on Facebook. Replace those unkind Facebook posts you've been making with sharing the gospel. Share the gospel with your cat for practice. Like, I hate to tell you, but your cat's not going to get. I'm not even going to go there.
Let's not go there, man.
But seriously, like, if you're looking for somebody to practice sharing the gospel with, talk to your pets. Talk to your little brother or sister that they can't even talk back to you yet. Just practice it and then go out and share it, you know? Just do it. So, four resolutions that I want to challenge you to make. 2019. Resolve to be kind. Resolve to be pure. Resolve to be in church. Resolve to be sharing the gospel. And like I said, this is not all-inclusive. Man, I'd love for you to resolve to read the Bible. I would love for you to resolve to listen to Christian music. I would love for you to resolve to get involved in Big Church over at Liberty Street or another church. I would love for you to resolve to do all of those things. But tonight, I wanted to focus on these four because I think this is a good starting point. Because if you can do these four, eventually those other things that I just mentioned, those things are going to be brought to your mind. They're going to be taught from this stage. Your small group leaders are going to talk about them in your small groups. And eventually you'll start working on those other things. But if you can work on those four things that I talked about tonight, this year, like if you can resolve to do those four things, all of that other stuff's going to start coming together. So be kind, be pure, be in church, and be sharing the gospel. I'm going to pray, and then we're going to sing another song before we go to small groups. God, I am so grateful for the Bible, and I'm thankful that the stuff that it has to say is really simple and really practical. God, I'm thankful that none of the verses that we read tonight are really confusing. They're just straightforward, good advice from the person who made us and wired us and knows what's best for us. God, I pray that students would resolve to live out the stuff that we talked about tonight. God, I pray these things in your name. Amen. Amen. So, if you want to make these resolutions tonight, I mean, you can do it on your own. You can just kind of talk to God while we sing and tell him, God, I really want to do these things in 2019. But if you feel like I'd probably do better with these if somebody knew that I made this resolution and could kind of check in with me. As we sing, I would challenge you just to step out of your seat, talk to one of the small group leaders, pray with them, and they'd be happy to kind of help you stay on track. So, let's stand up and sing. We're going to small
Deliverance.
before you go to small groups, don't forget this Sunday, Keontae's speaking. Next Wednesday, Azarian is speaking, and Azarian has a quick announcement to make on behalf of another church in the community, and this is a really cool opportunity for you guys, so let us know what you got.
No. Okay, so this weekend at 14th Avenue Gospel Mission, they're having a lock-in. So if you guys are interested in joining them, will you stay for like 5 minutes during your group time? Thank you. Just meet up here.
All right, so head to your groups, and hey, don't forget if you didn't have a parent at the family meeting, grab a family meeting thing.
Okay, so are you guys wanting more information?
Yeah.
Well, it's 14th Avenue Golf Course, okay? And it is this, what's the day? 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Okay, so it's this Friday, starting at 6 p.m. And it